Today, I saw a notification pop onto my phone, saying that the federal agents known as ICE have shot and killed another person in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which sparked more riots, protests, and escalated a situation rather quickly. If you're following the news and saw my last video about ICE the last time, where they shot and killed Renee Good as she was driving away in her car, then you also know that this is not a isolated incident. This has happened before, and it is expected to continue and get worse from here. The amount of excessive force being used by the federal government is, in my opinion, and from what I've read, very unacceptable, as using excessive force as your first method is, from my experience in my law enforcement criminal justice class, excessive force should not be the first option available for law enforcement. You need to start with hopefully being able to de-escalate. That's something that ICE and the federal authorities seem to fail at. And if you can't de-escalate and it escalates, you should need to go to the next option, which is non-lethal force. Stuff like rubber bullets or tasers, like maybe some I don't know if tear gas would be considered lethal or not. It depends on its usage. But like using like non-lethal items that won't hurt, like batons or rubber bullets or like rubber batons, or like water cannons, anything that might be able to like de-escalate is better. But what we have been seeing the last few weeks is that de-escalation, use of non-lethal force, have been completely skipped, and it's went from completely to just step 5, which is lethal force, which unfortunately is where we start seeing the casualties of citizens. I understand law enforcement and federal authorities are different, but I feel from my understanding that using your gun first and then asking questions later is unjustifiable, potentially unconstitutional, because they are using excessive force, violating most likely their First Amendment rights. But I did see an article as well saying that they chose not to release the name of the human that they shot in cold blood. I will say, they said from the articles I read that he was carrying a loaded weapon. However, he legally obtained it and was licensed to carry it, and that he was not a threat to the ICE agents or federal authorities. I also read that he was shot several times by potentially several different agents. However, the ICE is denying this, and they are claiming that he was a threat to them. He posed a danger and had an intent, intent to harm or cause a massacre of law enforcement and federal agents, which has so far been unproven and not gotten much evidence for those claims yet. But it is early because today it just happened today, so there's still a lot of investigating. Going to be a lot of legalities to figure out if the use of force was justified, or if it was a excessive use of force that was not necessary and could be considered a breach for misconduct, you know. But I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the legal terms and all that. But the fact that law enforcement, like police, are told don't go to your gun right away, try to de-escalate. If that doesn't work, use your taser, pepper spray, but don't instantly reach for the gun, because as we've been seeing, that has been leading to disaster, more protests, more anger. You have the mayor, Tim Walz of Minneapolis, I believe it was, saying that this is sickening. It's unacceptable that more people are getting killed by federal agents, hence causing more protesting and rioting and anger and frustration. It's a violation of the freedom of speech, freedom of protesting, First Amendment rights, yada, 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 and that how ICE is not welcome in the state, in the city, and that they need to get out because they essentially causing more harm than good. And in an instance, I agree. When you start sending like heavily armed agents that look like they're heading to war into your own cities, then you're going to have problems, especially when you forcefully take people out of cars and homes and buildings and then do as much damage as you want because you're covered up and unrecognizable, so you get away with committing actual felonies and crimes or trying to preserve the peace, I suppose. Yeah, and I read something how ICE kidnapped a child in the last raid they did. I believe was with the Renee Good. A 5-year-old was kidnapped by ICE and thrown in jail with his father. I don't know the full story about that. I just read that J.D. Vance was trying to defend that for some reason, saying how he was not kidnapped and taken care of, but there were articles and statements challenging that statement. So I don't know. All I know is this problem is only getting worse, and it's only going to get worse as long as force and excessive use of power is considered the dominant option by the federal authorities. I mean, you got a guy like Trump using force with the military overseas, and now you got him using domestic force with his personal police, also known as ICE, using violence against protesters. Some might consider ICE terrorism for the extreme methods they use. Some would debate it's not, but you know, that's a topic for others to figure out. I wouldn't go so far to say it's terrorism yet, but you know, to each their own. But it's dangerous. Something needs to change, because if the people don't feel safe or protected, this is how, you know, kings and empires fell. So, I mean, the last thing this country needs is for its own agencies to cause civil war, which I don't expect that to happen at all. I mean, yes, we're a gun-loving country, but I don't think ICE is exactly going to be the reason for a coup. But I hope it doesn't come to that. I don't think it will. I mean, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. I've been reading articles saying it could, but I highly doubt that. But yeah, that's all I really got. I mean, it's early, so there's going to be more information to come out later. But for now, ICE is taking a very dangerous precedent, setting bad examples for possible future generations of law enforcement agencies and spreading a bad name for law enforcement everywhere. I mean, law enforcement already gets a bad rep, but when you got agencies like ICE and, you know, other agencies doing stuff like this in cities and causing protests and escalating, then it does not build trust with the population, and it does not trust, and it does not lead to security. It does not lead to safety. It leads to anarchy, and that is not something we can afford right now. But yeah, if you enjoyed watching, make sure you like, comment, subscribe what you think about the topic, and if you find anything else out about it that I maybe have missed, let me know in the comments down below. And Yeah.